So I've been playing Football Manager for a very long time. It's an obsession. It's an obsession that never lets you go. Actually, sorry, before I get into this, right, and I was making a point there. I realize sometimes it takes a little while. I'm wearing red today. That's apparently a really big deal. I didn't think that I never wore red. Was this striking to you when you came into this video? If you're a Zealandism enjoyer, were you jump scared by the fact that I happened to be wearing red when you tuned in? I just wanted to know. I maybe am not aware of the colors that I wear when I sit down to do this stuff. I was jump scared by how many people were jump scared by me wearing red. I think it makes me look more tan. But more importantly, I haven't done laundry in a while. It was really the only shirt that I had available to me. Anyways, I've played Football Manager for a long time. I want to hear your thoughts about that, but also this, because in Football Manager, you'll see weird transfers all the time. You know, you'll be able to sign, one of my favorites was signing like Marek Hamšík in the 3rd division. Like, if they get old enough, and Zlatan Ibrahimovic coaching PSG, all sorts of weird things happen in Football Manager's universe. But there are usually certain barriers where you're like, well, that would just never happen in real life. It wouldn't feel right. There's just not a situation where that would happen. And if you went to somebody at the 2020 Euros and said that Raheem Sterling at the age of 31 would have signed for Feyenoord, I don't think anybody there would have believed you, right? And I realize 2020 Euros are played in 2021, but I mean, England goes all the way to the final, goes to the penalty shootout, where they go to the World Cup semifinal in 2018. Raheem Sterling is a feature part of both of those experiences. He is like a top line player in the Premier League. And really from like 2013, 2014 to after that Euros, Raheem Sterling is there. Right, but he's following. I'm going to try and put I'm going to put a finger on this. He's following a trend of a lot of guys like Neymar, where you really get 10 years unless you're a Martian. So Lionel Messi notwithstanding, Milner notwithstanding, you really get 10 years to play at the top level. It doesn't necessarily, a lot of honking going on outside. It doesn't necessarily matter when that 10 years starts. You get 10 years. Right? If you start young, your career is going to end earlier. Right? If you get into the top level later, you can make it run to the mid, maybe even the late. You can make it run a couple more years, mid-30s. Goalkeepers are obviously not included in this, so I'll put that caveat in there so you don't have to need the debate it later. But Raheem Sterling's fall off has just been massive. And now he's signed with Feyenoord, which I think is a great opportunity for him. Right? Because the truth is, we don't know how good Raheem Sterling is right now. Because as strange as it sounds for somebody who basically the entire time I've been paying attention to the Premier League intensely, right? The entire time that I've been paying attention to the world of football without caveats, that I've really been locked in, which is basically from like World Cup in South Africa to now. Okay, I'm 14. That's the first World Cup I really remember watching, that I was sat for. I knew exactly what was going on. And then from there, it was like I'm playing every FIFA game and eventually transitioned to Football Manager. I'm doing all of it. Raheem Sterling's been there the whole time. He went from wonder kid to guy that was there in his prime to all of a sudden kind of useless instantly. Now, I think there's a phenomenon that causes this in the Premier League. I realize I've thrown out about 8 different thoughts, and I'm going to try and go back and tie in as many as I possibly can, where you get players, Harry Maguire was in this category for a while, that they get huge contracts that they don't necessarily play up to, and they become Albatross players. Right? It's just like the elephant in the room. They get such big contracts, and Raheem Sterling is that type of guy. Right, if you wanted to have Raheem Sterling after the level that Raheem Sterling had been able to play at, right, in his entire career, when you get him, which Chelsea did as part of their signing 300 players initiative, which was all very exciting for everybody, you have to give him a ton of money if you want him to be on your team. And I think Chelsea obviously was taking a bunch of swings on guys like Mudryk and Neto. And right, I'm being sabotaged. But you're going after all these people. You wanted the experienced guy that's been doing it at the elite Premier League level for a long time. I mean, Raheem Sterling was never beloved. It was never a conversation about Raheem Sterling being the best winger in the world or being a world best 11 type player. But I think a lot of that was him being overlooked. He wasn't the player that made as many of the flashy plays. But there's a reason that so many managers, whether it be Pep Guardiola or whoever, right, valued him tremendously because of what he was able to contribute to the game. And I also think that the way he contributed to the game has contributed to his early downfall. But I'll try and stick in one conversation at a time. So the idea of the Albatross, the elephant in the room here, is that if you sign Sterling and you're paying him a ton of money, in the era of FFP, you basically have a salary cap to work off of. The salary cap changes every year depending on how much money the club brings in, but you have a set amount of money that you need to work with. Raheem Sterling is taking up a disproportionately large amount of that set money you need to work with. And so, even though Raheem Sterling is probably at a level where he can contribute to the team, just not as a star player, you want to try and ice him out of the team, which is what's been happening. He came back to Chelsea this year and they literally just exiled him from the team. He wasn't training with the team. He wasn't with the team. And why are they trying to do this? Because they want to get Raheem Sterling to leave. And it fucking worked. That's why they do it. Because Raheem Sterling, from the time he was 5 years old, has been playing 1 million matches a year every year. Goes on loan with Arsenal last year and it becomes clear he's just a squad player in the Premier League. He comes back to Chelsea, at least at the top level of the Premier League, goes back to Chelsea and they go, we don't want that. We're going to try and use those minutes on all these other 300 guys that we have. Thanks for playing. But they're not just going to let Raheem Sterling sit on the bench. Because if Raheem Sterling was making 25% of what he was making, they would love to have Raheem Sterling as a squad player to help them win games because he would be able to help. But because he's taking up such a large part of their salary, their available salary, you want to try and banish him to the shadow realm to get him to leave so that you can free up that amount of your salary. Eventually that ends in a mutual contract termination where they pay out a set amount that's going to be, end up being less than paying out the rest of his whole contract. And he gets to go to another club like Feyenoord, who generally wouldn't be able to afford him in the first place. Now I said, I love the move. Of course I love the move for Raheem Sterling and for Feyenoord. Sterling's 31, right? Or his best days are probably behind him, obviously. Because his best days were at an incredibly high level with an unbelievable Manchester City team and just running up over 80 caps with England in what has honestly been the most productive time for the English national team in a very long time. But at Feyenoord, Raheem Sterling gets to do something that he hasn't been able to do over the last 2 to 3 years, which is play. Play every weekend. Every weekend, he's going to be showing up and he's going to be playing. He's going to have a shirt with a low number on it. He's going to have the faith of the fans, the faith of the coaches, and he's going to try and restore eventually his match sharpness, maybe in some effort to make the England national team for one more World Cup or whatever. This is kind of the time of the year where people that maybe are thinking, I'm not going to get into the World Cup, they try to position themselves in a spot where, if he plays at a really high level, like if he shows out for Feyenoord here, then you open up a conversation, especially with the kind of experience that he has. And that's another reason that Chelsea would have played the card they would have played. It's we know you're probably in the back of your mind, because as somebody that is fortunate enough to know a good number of professional footballers, it's always in the back of their mind. The idea that, if I can just get hot. If I can just get hot, I can either get back there or finally break through for the first time, and they'll finally see me. I'll be able to get into the national team. It's like an addiction to sweets, but you're only eating broccoli. And you feel like if you just eventually can get back to eating those sweets again, everything just seems to revolve around that for these guys that get a taste of the national team. And Sterling didn't get a taste. He was one of the guys for a long time, for one of the countries that it's very, very, very difficult to be one of the guys for. So he goes to Feyenoord. He's going to be that feature guy. People will talk about, Feyenoord's this, Feyenoord's that. They've got really talented wingers. It's Raheem Sterling, right? Feyenoord was better last year than they are this year, at least in terms of the impact that they were able to make on Europe. But this isn't even the best team in the Netherlands. That's PSV right now. Okay, so we're looking at Raheem Sterling going into that environment and what I'm sure they're paying him, which is they're able to afford him at all because of the payout that I'm sure he got from Chelsea as part of the mutual contract termination. If he didn't, then I'm surprised he's taking the pay cut, because it is very difficult if you ever ask a human being to take a pay cut from what they think they are worth. They usually don't. And Sterling's going to be able to play. Feyenoord gets this guy with a ton of experience. They sell a lot of shirts, right? Because he instantly becomes the most recognizable name at Feyenoord, and one of, if not the most recognizable name playing in the Eredivisie, just global reputation-wise. And Chelsea is able to get rid of the player. So it's kind of an everybody wins move. But going to the Netherlands is just not a move that you expect because the Netherlands is the type of place that develops a ton of talent but can't pay the wage. And this has just worked out really well. And I commend Feyenoord for having the vision to be able to actually pull this off. Right? For having the vision to call. I always say it doesn't hurt to call. Like if you're a Premier League team and you fire your manager, call. Like Tottenham, call Xabi. He's probably going to say no. You don't know that for sure. Like I remember the news article came out that, Manchester United or whatever, and I think it was Manchester United, maybe Chelsea too, had called Jurgen Klopp. Fucking of course. Why wouldn't you? Of course he's probably going to say no. But wouldn't you love to have a guy that won the Premier League with Liverpool for the first time in 30 years, first time ever? You would love to have that guy. Feyenoord was over there probably thinking, we're probably not going to get him. We'll call. They had the audacity to call. And Raheem Sterling went, you know what? Fuck it. Seems nice to me. But back to his play style, Raheem Sterling obviously is a work rate dependent guy. The reason that all of these coaches love to have him in the first place, and the reason that this might not work out, is because Raheem Sterling was somebody that there were three of them out there. Obviously, he has good technique. Obviously, he was able to score a bunch of goals, but he's not renowned for his razor-sharp finishing like a Harry Kane or a Mo Salah, I would say, as an example, in his prime, where the ball just heat-seeking missiles to the back of the net. He's not known for being just unbelievably precise with his passing, and unbelievably precise under pressure. Right? He is known for, obviously, being fast, but let's be honest, there's a lot of fast players. Raheem Sterling won here because he was very athletic and he used it incredibly well. He never stopped running and he knew exactly where to be and he was consistently there. Because there's a lot of really fast guys that play football that are not anywhere near as good as Raheem Sterling ended up being. I always hate that when it's like, well, it's just because he's fast, right? Like, well, there's a lot of people that are, Kylian Mbappe is incredibly fast. Mudrik's faster. Like measurably, I'm pretty sure. If you look at like top sprint speeds and everything, you'd rather have Mbappe. You know what I mean? Like there is something that you can add on top of. It's always in conversation with other things. But even though Raheem Sterling wins up here, the way he won up here involved that work rate, that physical ability to just run more than everybody else. He was like Thomas Muller, but with the work rate instead of just the positioning. You know what I mean? It's a terrible, terrible comparison, but I feel like you might understand what I'm saying. It is possible. I don't know this because we have not seen Raheem Sterling play in like almost a year. It's possible that's gone. In which case Feyenoord ends up stuck with a guy that actually legitimately can't even hack it at their level. Like if that's completely gone. Now he's 31. Maybe it starts to break down in a more natural way, like a Paul Pogba sensation, where the hamstrings start to go and the calf is always tight and the ankles are sore. And he just doesn't have it anymore because he spent that 10 years in the spotlight, the 10 years playing in the absolute world-class level of the sport, that it's just so hard to maintain at that level past that. But Feyenoord's also not that. And there should be enough residual stuff in here that I think he's going to end up being okay. I think I ended up going back and tying in all the loose ends of all my different thoughts around this transfer, but I think it's a triple win. But it's also important to acknowledge that these sorts of transfers are a byproduct, and the situation that Raheem Sterling found himself in is a byproduct of FFP. Because with that salary cap, you were incentivized to dump people that occupy a big amount of that salary cap even more than you used to be, because you can't just like eat it. It literally affects the ability to build the rest of your team. It's a weird era.